Welcome back to Thinks It Right, Part 2 of Ancestry, and Take 2, because we apparently can't get through the first 5 minutes without, Roberta just doesn't want to listen to me.
I just don't listen.
She literally, I went through 2 minutes of speaking because I ramble.
And I repeated the same thing.
And she just repeated the same thing and acted like I had never said anything. So,
okay, let's try this again.
This is Take 2.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, I feel like I need a drink already.
Okay.
So we did my Ancestry. I got my results back. Now, on the family tree that I had done, we got back pretty far. And originally we thought I was Italian, Irish, Polish, and German. Mm-hmm. Okay? And by doing the family tree, I had found out that there might be some English in there because a lot of my family on my dad's side had lived in England. But we never knew anything. And my grandfather, when he was getting sick, when he was dying, he basically said... on my mom's side.
Okay.
He basically said, well, it might not be Polish so much, we might be Russian. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that kind of came out of the blue, and everybody was kind of like, well, nobody thought anything. Now, years later, I look back and I go, was he saying that because the Cold War was going on and everything?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I get the results back. It turns out I am a lot less Italian than I thought.
Which was funny because when I got my results back, he was like, watch, I'm going to come back more Italian than you.
My grandfather did know something, though. I am not Polish at all. I am 26% Russian. Now, it's Russian, Eastern European. They're all in the same area. The borders are the whole European border thing is crazy.
And back then, I mean, everything was so congested and everything, and so much stuff going on.
Yeah, everybody was going across borders and stuff like that.
Maybe she had the baby right on the border.
Maybe. I am Irish. A pretty good percentage of it. My German is very low. It's actually less than my Italian, which my Italian's only 12%. Which explains a lot of the features and everything that I have, because I didn't pick up a lot of the Italian features. I have some of them.
But like we mentioned in the previous episode, even if you do Ancestry with your siblings, doesn't mean your siblings are going to have the same percentages as you are. They will have the same traits.
Right.
But they can have traits that are higher. Like his sister may do it, and she may have a higher percentage of Italian.
She would be more Italian than me.
You think so?
You could tell by looking at her. And I think my brother would too, actually.
Yeah.
He would actually have more German in him too, I think.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. So I am 26% English, British, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
didn't get employed in Batman's Batcave or anything as the butler, but whatever. So we did that, and I was kind of taken back by some of the stuff. I had like a small amount of French in me, and a couple other things that were down below like the 10% mark.
Right.
But it was still pretty cool to see that. And I go back into doing my family tree again. And as I'm doing my family tree, well, now there is something that pops up, right? So they match you with potential
cousins, like
relatives and
distant cousins. And I've had third cousins, fourth cousins, even distant, more than that they showcase. And I think it's pretty cool. You look at them, you compare your DNA and stuff like that. Well,
so after looking at hers, and then I go and I look at mine, and I see a lot of the cousins that I know personally, like second and third cousins that had done it too, or at least did their family tree, and it linked me to them immediately. DNA-wise, the ones that I knew that I was linked to, it linked me to, I think the highest one was 92%. But then I get this mystery match, and we'll keep names out of it, right? But I get this mystery match that I have a first cousin, and I look at the name and I go, I have no idea who this is. So I decide, to reach out.
Now, was
to
there
her.
a picture?
There was no picture. She had no profile picture on there. So I reach out to her, and I'm hesitating on whether to contact because it's just weird, to do that.
Right.
But it had given us.
Especially nowadays, like, you don't know who's contacting you.
Yeah. It had given us a 99.8% match on there as first cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, well, okay, so how accurate is this stuff? So I start doing research. Well, apparently they need a lot less than that to convict a criminal in court. And Ancestry does have the biggest database. So this is linked to other people who did the spit in a vial to have it studied.
Mm-hmm.
So genetically, I am linked to this person, right? So I reach out to her. So as I'm waiting for a response, I go back and I start doing more of the family tree. And then I see, I decide, I stopped at 1079 AD. And then I went, okay, this guy was named Van Buren, and he got a town, Buren, in the Netherlands named after him in 1079. And I went, if he had a town named after him, there has to be some kind of historical record. So I did some pretty intensive research, and I found that his father and his mother were a duke and duchess. Well, as soon as you hit royalty, it goes all over the place. So now I got...
Well, because there's records for that.
And I'm not done digging yet, but I got all the way back to 480, I think, or 460 AD. Tons of royalty, which I'm like, hello? You gonna leave me in your will? But I got royalty inside my DNA.
I think everybody at some point does. If they can get back that far, they probably have some kind of,
Yeah, well, Charlemagne is my 39th great-grandfather. And Emperor Louis I is also in there, as well as a couple saints, some of the lesser-known saints, not the big-name ones. But I thought that was really cool, just seeing those names, and there's queens and kings
absolutely.
in there, and it's Belgium, France, Italy, like the whole area. So I'm doing all that. Now, that's all on my mom's side, which is where this first cousin is linked at. Okay, so these are also her ancestors. And I get a response back, and she's kind of not expecting it. She didn't go into it for that whole thing. But my question to her was, what were your grandparents' names?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, well, this is funny. I don't know, because I was born and I was given up for adoption, me and my twin sister. So now it's not just one first cousin, it's two first cousins. And the birth certificate says unknown for father's name. Okay, so I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I start telling my mom about all this, and we're very skeptical. She seemed skeptical, my cousin, and I was skeptical, and then she requested.
And I'm sure she probably felt the same way.
Yeah.
She was probably like, "Who's this weirdo contacting me?"
Yeah. So then we become friends on Facebook. All right. And at this point, I'm standing with my mom and telling her the story, and I get the picture, and I see her face, and I go, "Oh my God." I could tell right away she was related, and I turned the picture, I showed my mom, and she agreed there were a lot of resemblances there. So, long story short.
Well,
if you have anything to add, you can just, speak up.
It's not my thing.
I mean, because last time you spoke up, you just basically repeated the last 2 minutes of what I said. Just condensed down into 30
Because
seconds.
you just talk so much.
Well, you said you wanted to do this.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's just the way the Pepitos
Would you like to tell the next
tell
part
a
of it?
story.
Would
they
you
prolong
You're
the
Pepito
story.
by injection. You want to tell the rest of the story?
Just injection. Go ahead.
You want to tell
No,
more
go
of the
ahead.
story?
No, go
No,
ahead.
you can feel free to add at any point.
Not my family. Your DNA. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway.
I'll just sit here and look pretty.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do that. And you're pulling it off pretty well, so. So where was I?
You were talking to your mother.
All right. So the cousin and I start going back and forth, and we start exchanging information. And I start showing her a couple pictures, because at this point we had found out that the DNA was absolutely linked, and it was correct. We are first cousins. It was just a matter of figuring out, okay, who the heck are the parents, you know? So she kind of knew about her mom, And then we found out who her dad was on my mom's side.
Which we do not need to disclose.
Right. So she is first cousin. And it was just a really cool, very overwhelming experience of...
And I think everybody in your family, from your brother and sister to your mom to your uncles, and I think everybody processed it at a certain time, and for her as well, and her sister, and I think everybody has a different way of processing it, and it's a lot to take in.
Yeah. Well, and I told her...
This isn't something that's like second, third cousin. This is your first cousin.
Yeah, and I flat out told her...
I was excited because I thought this was like super interesting.
Yeah, and that was the other cool thing. It was like you were super supportive of it, but the whole time I'm so worried about... I'm like, is her husband going to take this the wrong way? Because,
Well, anybody could take it the wrong way. I mean, it's like... For anybody that's looking at this from the outside, they're like... You guys are strangers. You never grew up together. You never knew each other. You never, but
never knew each other existed.
Exactly. So, like, other people may look at it as like, who cares? Like, why would you even go there? But to me, because I've had that happen in my own family where I have cousins that we never knew existed that came into our life too. And I feel like it's one of those things, you're just making your family grow,
Right.
And there's no denying resemblance, not just from you guys, but I've seen it in my family. Like, my one cousin that is now in our life, like, she looks exactly like us. Like, she has her feet, you cannot deny that she is not one of us,
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with this person that we met. Like, she is, her features to you, it's just... the nose, the eyes, it's just beyond. Like, it's amazing.
But it goes beyond that. It's so weird because...
She looks like your grandfather.
I was very reserved on it. She obviously came up, she was raised by a great foster family.
Absolutely.
Her and her sister, they were both...
And that's her family.
And that is her family. And the first thing I had said was, listen, I am never going to refer to your biological father to you as your father.
Right.
Because he wasn't.
You just refer to him as by his name.
Yeah, I use his name. And she was pretty thankful for that, and I haven't really gotten to talk to her sister yet. But we decided after all this talking, and all the weird, uncomfortable feelings on my end and her end and the thrill of excitement, and then she had thrown out there in conversation, well, I kind of want to meet you guys, so like a small meeting, just like us and her family. She's married and she has 2 kids, and it was like, all right, well, you tell me when, and things fell together, and we had dinner with them this past Sunday. That we had them over, and
it was one of those things where you're like, I was nervous for him, like. So what do? Do you like hug? Do you shake? He's like, I don't know.
Well,
I do this?
Were.
Like,
you were more nervous than me up until the point.
It wasn't like it was a thing for you. It was like a supportive thing for you. Like, I feel like you don't know what to do. Like, I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable. I didn't want him to make her husband feel uncomfortable.
That's the whole thing. It really
you don't want to cross that boundary. You don't want to be disrespectful. But at the same time, I hug people all the time. I don't care who they are.
Well, yeah,
like,
but it was obvious that there was going to be a hug involved, but it was like, I don't know, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
You don't know this person. I've never hugged anybody I don't know.
Oh, see, I have.
I've shaken hands the first time.
Guys, I guess that's a different perspective.
But then at the end of the night, if it's female, I'll usually give them a hug if I was talking to them all night, But it was kind of like, this is totally different. We know, and at this point we had been talking for 2.5 weeks, and we had gotten to know enough about each other where we really felt comfortable.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until she texts me that she was leaving to come here that
ETA,
I just suddenly,
and she was ETA, and he was just like, I'm like, okay, let's have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And then when she got here, she was like, I would love a glass of wine. Because we were like, do you want something to drink? Because it breaks up, a little bit of the nerve.
Yeah.
The nervousness and all that.
Really cool. It was very strange on a wavelength that I haven't experienced before, because I felt like I had known her all my life.
Yeah.
It was really weird that she fit in
There's
so
a
well.
lot of connections there.
And
oh my God.
Aside from the physical features, like I saw so much of my grandparents in her face when she was speaking, and then Roberta had pointed out that now their son looks like her husband's grandfather, but also looks like a spitting image of her biological father.
So much. Unbelievable.
So it was very, very...
But not just that, the way, certain things that she spoke, the way she acted, it was definitely your uncle's, like, you know, your mom, like, you could just see that in there. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing what the technology that we have now.
And thank God we have
it,
like,
because it just expands your family, like, even though, like, she had an amazing, and I've had, my aunt is adopted, my cousin is adopted, and my grandmother was adopted. So I know that aspect of those feelings and those emotions, and, rightfully so, with some people not wanting to know and don't care, and that's perfectly fine. That's what you choose in life.
Well, she even said that she really didn't care to know.
No, because she was complete.
She didn't need to.
She had a great adoptive parents. Those were her parents. That's her mom, that's her dad, that's who raised her, and that's the end of the line, and that's the way it should be. But the aspect of it is that you want to know what kind of health issues you may have down the line, or you may just be curious to see, like, personality traits. These things are undeniable when it comes to your family blood.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
One of those things that I can share is, so one thing that runs on my mom's side of the family, and it's not everybody, it's my mom's side of the family. So it was my mom and a couple of her she had 3 brothers, 2 of her brothers, and my grandmother all got nosebleeds, like where 2 of them actually had to have surgery that was life-saving to correct the thing. And I always grew up, I didn't get nosebleeds until I was like 10 or something, and I started getting them, and when I would get them, it would be bad. And then I finally broke my nose enough times where I don't get them as often now. But it was funny because one of the things that was always said to me was, people would bust my chops and say, oh, look, Rick's getting his period, and it turns out...
Weren't you... Wait. Remember the one year for Halloween you were a tampon?
I was. That was not a kid-friendly party.
Right.
But, yeah.
It's before we had kids.
It's before we had kids. But, yeah, I did. I went dressed
totally
as a
forgot
tampon.
about that.
You remember I answered the door and the pizza delivery guy came.
Totally forgot about that.
It was wrapped in toilet paper. Your dad helped me make the costume.
Yep, he did.
Wrapped in toilet paper, we dipped this part, from the head down to the shoulders, all in red. And then I had a rope hanging
with
from
food
my
dye.
legs.
Yep.
So it was cool. A pizza delivery guy came. He was he wanted to throw up, and so I don't know how we got on that, but.
Well, because you were talking about period.
Right. Yeah. So apparently, not the cousin that I made contact with, but her sister.
The twin.
She gets chronic nosebleeds, and they used to make fun of her, saying, "Oh, you're getting your period through your nose now." So it's kind of like, it's a really ridiculous little similarity, but the health things. It's not just that.
There's art there,
Art background connected, and on
similarities so though with the 2 of you when they, we were all here, her husband, her kids.
And she sounds exactly like my mom.
Oh my gosh.
When she speaks, she sounds like my mom.
It's your mom and your uncle. Your one uncle.
She sounds like my uncle?
She does. It's a mix. The loud.
Oh, when she gets loud.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I can't help that. It's just a mixture there of...
So you know who you are. You're as crazy as the rest of us, which is awesome.
But it's funny because I was sitting here, I was just watching them speak, and the similarities of, like, the nose, like, structure and, like, the eyes because he has his father's eyes, but, like, underneath, like, these right here, and the nose, unbelievable. The nose was undeniable. I was like, if they aren't really, then something has to give, because if there was
any doubt, and there wasn't any doubt, I mean, the only reason that we invited them to the house was because at that point there was no town.
Well, they were scared just as we were because we're like, okay, you're inviting complete strangers at this point. You don't know who these people are. And I watched a lot of 2020, so I'm freaked out. And you're like, you don't know if these people are coming to your house. You don't know who the hell they are. Like, they could be killers.
Well,
and then they get here and we're chatting with them and they're like, and she goes, oh, thank goodness you guys are, this was throughout the night. She goes, thank God you guys aren't like killers or anything.
Well, it's funny because like as soon as she said that, I think I told her husband about how when we moved in here, we found like a garrote wire and
I know.
shovels
Oh
and
my
bags of
goodness.
lime and concrete, which is a true story.
This was like only them being here like 10 minutes.
I know.
And you told them that. But, you just felt, it was like these people forever. You know?
And
they weren't even part of my family.
Yeah.
Even though I've been with you for 18 years and that is my family, but that's like your blood, so you feel that like connection.
Well, it definitely is a very strange connection. We're only 3 years apart in age.
Yeah.
But there was a very strange connection that I can't say I've really had with anybody on that type of level. It was kind of like a brother sister type thing.
Yeah, but you have that connection with your cousins.
I did at one point.
You have that connection with your one cousin.
I do, but he's so
the
far away. I don't talk to him.
But the two of you, when you get together,
oh no, we're like two 12-year-olds.
It's ridiculous. But it's like but that's what I mean. Like you have that family thing with him.
He's the one other cousin that I've always had that I had that with. But there's been times where.
But that's what I mean, and that was the only cousins that you've had that you grew up with.
Yeah, he was the one that was closest to my age. He's 2 years older than me, or a year and a half older.
Right.
But he lives in Indiana. We're in Philadelphia. So it's like we don't really see each other.
And I feel like your cousins are your first best friends.
Other than siblings,
Well, that's what I mean. Your cousins are your first best friends. I grew up, my cousins were always around. Now, not so much. We don't, some of us don't talk and some of us don't see each other. But I don't wish them bad. I hope they have, the best life and whatever with their families. But you do miss that aspect of having cousins and family around.
You don't realize you miss it though, and I think what this new old cousin had just said was that she felt like she was never missing anything in her life, and now she feels like she's complete after this, and it hit me on that level where I really wasn't missing anything. I'm happy with my life. I have the person that I want to be with. I have my kids. And then this happens and you're like, it's overwhelming to the point where, of course, by the end of the night, me and Cuz are, all emotional. It's all her fault, though. Though I did try to make her cry first and it worked, so.
Yeah, but it wasn't just her. We were all emotional.
Yeah, no, I know we were.
We were all sitting here. And then after they even left, we were still here, you and I, getting emotional.
Yeah. Well,
about certain things.
The really cool thing is too, aside from that level, my kids and her kids really got along, and they're not exactly the same age. My kids are a couple years older, but the four of them just got along really well. And it was a neat experience. So. I don't know. What else? Do you have anything?
No, I feel like if anybody has any interesting stories from if you guys have tried 23andMe, Ancestry, or any of those DNA kits or something like that, and you want to share your story with us, let us know.
Yeah. And Ancestry, if you would like to buy our story.
We could share the full one with you.
Yeah, we can. I'm sure more will come out over time. There's just, it's very sensitive on a lot of levels right now. Not everybody's been met yet, introduced yet, and there's a lot behind it. But this was
cats have a certain way about
cats
their
want
feeling.
To talk apparently.
Maybe they have a DNA story too. They do have DNA for animals, by the way.
They do, and they do it through Ancestry, right?
No.
Good. because I don't want to find out I'm related to like.
No,
a cat.
they do it through another website, I think. But you can find out what your DNA is of your dog or your cat.
Mhm. So
Okay.
yeah, all right. And with that, you've
I'm empty.
yeah, you're empty.
Cheers.
Cheers.